Hi guys! Today you might notice that things look a little slightly different, maybe not because my body's kind of covering what really looks different. I cleaned this and I cleaned this up here, and I was able to put some of my non-young adult books up here. It's not finished by any means because I still have a couple more books coming in the mail, and once I do my haul then I'll start finding homes for them, but looks a little bit cleaner. Don't be fooled though, because after sleeping over my room yesterday and finally cleaning everything up off the floor and putting everything away at 3 a.m., my shelf in my closet collapsed. 3 a.m., closet doors flew open. I thought I was going to die. I thought that there was a demon coming to attack me or a mass murder or something. So, currently my room is more of a mess than it was yesterday when I cleaned it. I should have just left it. That's what I get for trying to clean my room. But anyway, all that aside, today I am finally doing my review on Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This is really going to be more of my thoughts because I feel like I'm not really reviewing this book for its political correctness or anything. I just am going to give you guys my thoughts so that you can decide for yourselves if you want to read this. This will be a non-spoiler review. I have all my thoughts that I wanted to say on my computer here. This is going to be a non-spoiler review so you guys can watch the video and not be spoiled on anything that happens in the book. So let's get started. So, Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. If any of you have watched any of my most recent videos, then you know that this is my favorite book of 2015, but not just my favorite book of 2015. This is my favorite book of all time now, and I just read it. You know, I have been raving and freaking out about this book. So I was hooked on this book by page 1. By page 20, I was obsessed. By page 50, I decided I wanted to buy it, which I did the next day from Barnes & Noble. Full price, instead of looking for a cheaper used version on Amazon, which I always do. By page 70, I told somebody it was the best book I had read in 2015, and by page 100, I had told my boss that it was the best book I had ever read, which is not even halfway through the book yet. And it is true, this is the best book I have ever read, and it's my top book of 2015, obviously. I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. Obviously, if I could have given it more than 5 stars, if I could have given it all the stars, I would have given it all the stars. I would go into the sky and get the stars to give to this book. And I tweeted at Colleen Hoover about it after I finished it, and she favorited my tweet, and I died a little bit. My sister laughed at me because she had already been retweeted by Colleen Hoover, so she was not as excited as I was, but I was stoked about that. So obviously I would say the main guy in this book is my newest book boyfriend. I love him. And so now that I rambled on for 5 minutes, let's go ahead and tell you guys what the story is about. So this is a book about 2 characters, Tate and Miles. And Tate has just moved in with her brother into his apartment building, and she meets the guy across the hall who's good friends with her brother, and his name is Miles. And they don't really get along at first, and they're really not friends either, but they are super attracted to each other, so they decide upon this arrangement where they are just going to have sex, and there's going to be no strings attached. Miles does not want love, and Tate doesn't have time for a boyfriend, so this is basically like the perfect arrangement. And Miles only has 2 rules for Tate, and that's to never ask about his past and to not expect a future with him. And this starts going really well until real feelings start to get involved and people start getting hurt. So obviously, as most books about pure sexual relationships are, you can guess that there are going to be some kind of emotional problems in this book and emotional trauma, and that is true. This is one of the most emotional books I have ever read, and Colleen Hoover even said that she only cried when writing Miles. Out of all the male characters she has written, she only cried writing Miles. And it's true, because this story is very sad and heartbreaking. The story is really sweet and all that stuff, but it's also super emotional, and you really have to be prepared for that going into this book. This book is really hard to like do thoughts about because I can't even, it's been a week probably since I've read it and I still can't even get all my thoughts together, so I'm having some trouble. Sorry. Something that I really liked about this book was related to the sex scenes in the book. I liked that every sexual scene between the two characters meant something. It wasn't just all the same every single time. Each one was different, and each one was a different milestone in their relationship. And so every time that something happened between them, it was written differently, it was crafted differently, the art of writing it was different, but also something different happened as far as their relationship together between the two characters. And so that was a really big thing to me, because I read a lot of books where it's just all the same every single time and it doesn't mean anything different when each scene happens. So I liked that in this book, each one you knew you were going to get something different with, and you knew that you were going to uncover a new emotion or secret with it. So I really appreciated that about this book. I felt that the character development in this book was pretty good. I know a lot of people had some problems with Miles for reasons I won't get into because that would be a spoiler, I think, but I personally thought that he was great. You can really see why he is the way he is because you know that something is happening in the past, and I liked that each chapter kind of corresponded together so that you kind of got a piece of his past and then the next chapter would kind of match up with that. And I loved the story coming together and the mystery of wanting to know what was going on and why he was the way he was. Discovering who Miles was a huge part of this book, and it was something that really left me wanting more, and I couldn't stop turning the pages. I loved the ending of this book. I cried several times in the book, and I think Colleen Hoover did such a great job of putting you in the minds of the characters and really making you feel what they were feeling. I feel like a lot of times I read a book and I can feel what the character's feeling, but I really felt I was in their heads, and I felt like I was them when each of the different narrators was narrating, and she just does such a good job of making you feel like you're actually in their thoughts and seeing what they're thinking. And I thought that was really good about the book because it really connected me to the characters. And I mean, obviously I can't relate to Tate because she's a nurse and I'm not a nurse, but I still felt like I was in her head and I could really feel her emotions, and Miles too, and it just made me feel even more for the characters and to want them to have happiness in the end. It also made the emotional scenes even more heart-wrenching, and that was something I really appreciated because even though it was sad and it made me feel sad and I couldn't sleep after I finished the book, that's how I like a book to be. I like to feel immersed in it and like I'm in it and all that stuff. So the way I read this book was pretty funny. I mentioned it in my mid-July wrap-up. I actually started it on my Kindle, which is somewhere in my mess of a room. I started on my Kindle and I read about 124 pages in. When I was hanging out with my boyfriend, he came over to spend the day with me, and he was doing a lot of work for a softball tournament that he is putting on, and he was watching TV, and so I was kind of reading whilst helping him with the stuff he needed help with, and I probably could have finished this in a day, honestly, but I was distracted helping him and stuff like that. So I read 124 pages and then I took a break because I was going to be busy with work that week and I wanted to just be able to read it and not have any distractions. So I waited. And then I went to my boyfriend's house to hang out for the last time before he went on vacation, and we went to the beach and he was playing soccer with his friends, and I was like, well crap, I forgot to bring a book. So I downloaded the Kindle app on my phone and I started reading it on my phone. I downloaded the Kindle book from my library to rent, to borrow, and so I was reading it on my phone. Then that night when I got home, I just kept reading it on my phone, and then the next day I read it on my phone while my mom and sister went to run errands for college stuff, so I just sat in the car and read, and then when I got home I just kept reading it on my phone, and then for the last like 4 or so chapters I read it, the physical copy, because I wanted that effect. I wanted to read the physical book. So I kind of read this on 3 different mediums, and that was pretty hilarious to me. I just keep thinking to myself, I want to read more Colleen Hoover, but I have no idea how her other books are going to compare to this one because I loved it so much. And I definitely prefer the new adult books that are more like the age where the characters have either just graduated from college or they're a few years out from college. So like 22, 25. I definitely prefer those kinds of new adult. I like all new adult kind of stories and ages, but I definitely prefer this kind. So that was nice. It was like the perfect ages for me to really relate to the characters and where they were in their lives, sort of. I definitely thought I was hooked on New Adult after I read Cora Carmack's Losing It series, but I was so wrong. I was hooked, but I was not addicted or obsessed until I read Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. And I found out in the middle of reading this that the movie is actually coming out, I believe, next year, and they have already cast Miles, and I love him. He's so great. Once I saw what he looked like, I was able to clearly picture Miles as him with a couple variations in the version that was in my head, but he's so handsome, and I could see him as Miles, and I think that he'll do a great job as long as he's a good actor. He must be a good actor, not just hot, but he must be a good actor. I'm just so excited for the movie. I hope that it lives up to my love of the book, because I don't want the movie to ruin it, because I loved the book so much. But I'm so excited for the movie. I can't wait to see who they cast as Tate. Personally, I think they should cast me, but I'm just saying. So those are my really scatterbrained thoughts on this book. That's why I wouldn't call it a review, because I knew this was going to be super scattered all over the place. I probably didn't make any sense. Probably didn't make anybody feel any more or less like they wanted to read this. It's so hard for me to get my thoughts together on this book even now, even after I've had time to think about it, because I just loved it, and it's hard to explain it. I loved everything about it. I did not have any problems with any of the characters. And yes, like I said, people have problems with Miles because of the way he treats Tate sometimes, but I feel like as you learn more about what's happened to him in his past, you kind of start to understand it, and that doesn't make it okay, but that didn't make me hate Miles. And it made me hurt for Tate, but it also made me hurt for him. I just loved all the characters in the book. There wasn't one character I disliked, except for the character you're supposed to dislike. So anyway, those are my really scatterbrained thoughts. I hope that this helps some of you. I actually might refilm it because I'm all over the place and it's hot in here and I'm uncomfortable, so I might end up refilming this. But if I didn't, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope that some of you pick this book up now after I have raved about it. If any of you really, really value my opinion, I hope that you pick this up, and I really hope you enjoy it. And if not, then don't be mad at me, but I don't think you will. I think you'll enjoy this. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye everyone!